Hi, I'm Kalilah Reynolds and welcome to Taking Stock. We're bringing you all the latest business news and telling you how it will affect you and your money. But before we get started, head over to my website, KalilahReynolds.com, to subscribe to our newsletter. You can click the link up here or in the description box below. Now come on, let's get this money.
First up, it was a rough year for Palace Amusement as the entertainment industry was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Jamaica Stock Exchange reported just how hard hit Palace was in their yearly analysis. The theatre's stock plummeted by 55%. We'll speak to marketing manager and director of Palace Amusement, Melanie Graham, on the company's plan to pivot. And later, the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. Consumer and business confidence is up for the first time in 4 quarters, and Netflix has added 8.5 million users in its 4th quarter, blowing away estimates. We'll discuss.
But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
The economy lost over 92,000 jobs as at October 2020 compared to October 2019, lifting the unemployment rate to 10.7%. That's according to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin. This represents a 3.5 percentage point increase when compared to the record low 7.2% a year earlier. The decline in the labor force came from elementary occupations, followed by service workers and shop and market sales workers. Most jobs were lost in arts and entertainment. Meanwhile, a survey conducted by Statin in October around COVID-19's impact on households showed that nearly half of all working Jamaicans have had their incomes reinstated to levels before the pandemic. Consumer and business confidence inched up for the first time in 4 quarters, according to the latest survey conducted for the December 2020 quarter. The outlooks were driven by expectations for jobs and future profits, but the figures are still below 2019 levels. Consumer confidence grew by almost 4 points in December from the 3rd quarter, while business confidence grew by 19 points in the same period. Current job prospects are very low for consumers at 24 points, down from 28 points in the 3rd quarter. However, future job prospects increased to 96 points in December, but is still lower than previous years. Adam Stewart has been appointed executive chairman of both the ATL Group and Sandals Resorts International. The appointments place Stewart at the head of the business, tourism and media empire built over the past 50 years by his late father Gordon Butch Stewart. Adam, who turns 40 this week, was previously the deputy chairman of the ATL Group. The group's commercial portfolio of companies includes Appliance Traders, ATL Automotive Group, the Jamaica Observer, AC Hotel Kingston, and Gore Stew. Proven Investments is now only accepting Jamaican dollar applications for its additional public offer APO. The company says the decision is based on the number of applications already received for the APO and the rules set out by the Bank of Jamaica regarding the issuance of US dollar shares. Proven's APO is scheduled to close at 4 p.m. on Friday, January 29. The company had upsized the offer last week based on excess demand and now stands to raise $30 million from the invitation. Meanwhile, Derman Trading Company also upsized their APO last week to raise the maximum $4 billion targeted in their prospectus. Jamaica's former senior IMF resident representative Dr. Jean Leon will take over as president of the Caribbean Development Bank (CDB) on May 1, 2021. He takes over from Dr. Warren Smith, who headed the regional financial institution for the last 10 years. Dr. Leon has over 30 years of experience in economic development and has directed macroeconomic and financial policy support to government authorities in Africa, the Middle East and Central Asia, and other territories in the Caribbean. Leon oversaw the standby arrangement between the IMF and Jamaica, which broke down in 2013. His tenure on the island also ended that year. Former Assistant Vice President for Sagicor Investments, Ronaldo Thompson, has been appointed Vice President of Investment Management at Cygnus Capital. In his new role, Thompson will oversee the operations of the Cygnus Alternative Investment Fund, which includes private credit, real estate, and private equity. He will also be responsible for product development and monitoring the assets on the wealth management platform. The Cygnus Group has also introduced Denzel White as Vice President and Head of Tax Advisory of Cygnus Capital.
What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart. And when we come back, a lot of people stopped going to the movies because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and this has hit Palace Amusement very hard. They've since opened a drive-in theater and are working on other plans to turn things around. We'll hear their plan to pivot. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agent. Insurance made easy. Welcome back to Taking Stock. Pivot, pivot, pivot is the word you've heard all of 2020. Has Palace Amusement pivoted? And how's that drive-in doing? Joining us now to discuss, we have Manager and Director of Palace Amusement, Melanie Graham. Hello, Melanie. Welcome to Taking Stock.
Hi, Kalilah. Thank you.
Yes, you look well given, everything that's going on. I can imagine you're under immeasurable stress there with the company too.
Unbelievable.
Well, let's talk about it. So Palace Amusement, has it always been a family company?
Well, it is a family controlled, but we are also on the stock exchange.
Right. Well, yes, I know that much, that you do trade on the stock exchange, but the management is within your family. I know this company has been around for 99 years. This is one of those,
100 years.
100 years. This year would be 100 years, right?
Yeah.
Wow. What an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And look at the times we're in to mark the 100-year anniversary.
Can you imagine? We never envisioned anything like this. We thought 100 years, it's the time to celebrate and, really do something to mark this period in time. But yeah, we find ourselves.
COVID-19 had other plans. So movie-going obviously has been very hard hit by the pandemic. People, it started out with, you have the curfews, and so there are restrictions on the times that people can go out. And then also people have been afraid to go out. There have been restrictions on public gatherings. And I don't even know if there are any new movies that are out. So take me back to March 2020. And how this thing evolved and Palace and the impact on Palace Amusement.
Okay, well, I would like to even go further back than that, to say the third quarter of 2019, because we decided that we wanted to put a cinema in Portmore, go back there. We were there many years ago, and so we made arrangements, we secured a lease and went into Portmore. Right after we opened, they had state of emergency over there. So we were locked down. When we were able to reopen, it was curfew. And that severely hampered, of course, because of the movie times. Portmore, a lot of people still live there, but work in Kingston. So traditionally, it has been a later, it's not so bad now, but it has been traditionally a later place for entertainment. So that severely impacted our
right, because of the commute, so people get home a little bit later.
Exactly. So we were barely off the ground. It was showing a lot of promise when the pandemic hit. All the work that we did at Portmore to get it, because we built it out, all the equipment and everything, the furnishings, everything. We did it out of cash flow, mainly. We borrowed very little on that. So we were in a pretty comfortable position. But come March, this just happened on us. And on the 14th of March, we shut down. At that time, we thought, well, it will be about 3 months that we would be shut down for. So we had to seek some financing, which we did to carry us over for that period. Well, it's now 10 months, 11 months, and we're still
going on a year.
Yeah, it's been devastating.
You reopened in, was it June?
July, I think it was in July that we reopened.
And what prompted the decision to reopen at that time?
Well, the government, and also we were given protocols with which we could open, right? Of course, reopening, even although it doesn't seem like maybe a lot of money, but it costs, every little bit adds up when you're not getting anything in. Mm-hmm. There was nothing coming in. And so we had to put in all sanitizing stations. Our capacity was cut down. We could only have a certain capacity of people in there. We had to put in, temperature guns, people's temperature taken before they come in. The filters with the air conditioning units, we had to change all of those to specialized MERV 13 filters. Those are not cheap either. So it costed quite a bit to get back. But we thought, if you are out of this business for too long, people lose the habit, they forget about you, and it is even more difficult to restart. So with what we had at the time, we decided, movies, that's it. Mm-hmm. We decided to reopen.
I know that first quarter, so between March and June, looking at your financial reports, you guys lost something like $100 million. A lot of money. And then the subsequent quarter, that report was released more recently. It wasn't much better, even though you were open. I think it said 95 million so in losses.
Yes.
So even though you've been open, the losses are still racking up.
Exactly. Because you have no time period, nobody's able to give you any time, and we it's not up to us. We are influenced by what is happening worldwide, and especially in the US, because that's where most of the pictures are coming from.
Right.
So the production had shut down. It's just barely starting now, but then they have this, California is in problems. And so, even every week we have a meeting with the National Theatre Owners Association, and, they try to be, everybody's trying to be optimistic, and they say that, it's a big industry, but everybody worldwide, it's not only Jamaica, worldwide has been affected by this. The film industry has been hit particularly hard. Many of the production companies, the distributors actually, have sought different ways of trying to recover, because pictures had been made before this, or they were being finished, and now they're just sitting there. So they're trying to recover some of that money.
And some of them have gone straight to Netflix.
Right. But that has not proven profitable for them either. They're not making what they are accustomed to making.
Right.
So, it is a matter of they're trying to manage and salvage what they're able to, but it's not the answer. The actors, the directors, the producers, all of those people, they're very concerned about it, because they do not make movies to be shown on that medium. They make movies to be shown on the big screen. And so they're looking for every opportunity possible that they can bring it back to the big screen.
But at the same time, in terms of your audience, a lot of people have become more accustomed now to watching on that medium, on a Netflix, to watching a movie at home because of the pandemic and because there aren't new movies really coming out.
Exactly.
And so are you concerned that even after this passes, that going out to the movies may be a thing of the past?
Well, do you think that you can stay home 24/7?
Me personally? No, well, let me tell you, movies is one of the things I am most looking forward to coming back. Is probably the thing I miss the most about, the normal pre-COVID world, because it's one of my few forms of entertainment that I actually used to do on a regular basis. So I do think that there will be appetite once the industry is back up and there are things to attract people to the movies. So I think that's a positive in your favor, and there's reason to be optimistic. But in the meantime, it's just really difficult for you to hang in there for going on a year now. What about your staff? Because you've closed 2 locations as well, right?
Yes. We closed 2 locations and we opened one, New Kingston Driving. Although a lot of people don't know that we're open. We're on social media, we're in the newspapers. But still, people are asking me, I go out there and they say, oh, I hear you're opening a drive-in. And when is it coming? I said, we've been open. We've been open since about October last year.
So you're not getting the crowds, you're not getting many people coming to the drive-in because of the lack of awareness.
Kalilah, everybody thought, and this was the reaction we got, oh, you need to open a drive-in because
I remember
distance there. And, so we said, okay, great. Let us see about that. So we went into that as best as we could. But still, in fact, the closed cinemas that are opened, which is Carib, Sunshine in Portmore, and those 2 especially are doing better business than New Kingston, the drive-in.
Mm-hmm. Because people are familiar with those, people are aware of them. But again, I think it comes back to the lack of new movies and also lack of people just being aware of that location. So, a thought came to me as well, because, there's no new movies coming out. Is there a possibility of theaters like yours being able to offer some of the past hits? So if you would bring back a Black Panther or bring back a Titanic or whatever big movies there were from a while ago, do you think people would come, or is it an issue where you have to reacquire rights and it's a whole thing?
Sometimes it's just not available.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But if it is on Netflix or Amazon or one of those streaming platforms, why would they, if it's nothing new, if it is nothing that they can't get on those platforms, why would they come there?
Yeah, for the same reason that people go to the movies in the first place, even when they're available bootleg versions on the internet. The quality, you get the surround sound, you get the experience, you can buy the popcorn. Right. So perhaps if you do like a Marvel marathon, I think that might be, if you show like all of them back to back, just all day, that would be something that would pull a crowd, I think.
We couldn't pay JPS.
There we go.
That's a devil of a gamble to take.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People have said, there was another entity that we supply films to that had the idea that they would show Bond movies, a Bond season, just one after the other. Well, that didn't last too long, as nobody came. We said, try it if you would like to, but, we don't advise it. And nobody came. So that was it.
So it really hinges on having the new movies available.
Exactly. And the promotions behind it.
Right.
Because when they're releasing these new movies, everything is out there. So people are talking about it. It is on every station, every TV station, every cable station.
Right.
Everywhere.
They do all the promotion for you,
Exactly.
the movie makers.
Yes.
Yes. So do you think that drive-in, is going to last?
I am very hopeful that once we have the movies, I believe that the drive-in especially is a more family-oriented place for people to go to the movies, like, take children and that sort of thing. They're, I guess, maybe more controllable. We can take them at a younger age. They can fall asleep in the car. Well, I remember doing that long ago too. So it's so I think there is definitely a place still, and it is unique. There's a whole generation that know nothing about a drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I've never been to a drive-in. I should go this weekend and check it out.
Okay.
That should be fun. Yeah, I'm gonna go check it out this weekend, so that the viewers can have an experience of what that is like.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
So do you have the full concession stand experience, everything? You can buy a popcorn same way?
But there are concessions with a little difference in that they're outside, they're covered, and everything is secure, but it is not in an enclosed, air-conditioned space, right? And we don't have the ability there to have all of the items, but we certainly have popcorn and drinks and hot dogs and stuff like that.
You spoke about
chicken. We introduced it.
Oh, nice. So you can have a full meal, movie and a meal, dinner and a movie.
Yes.
Nice. So you spoke about a whole generation not knowing about the drive-in experience. I know movies in my mom's time, my grandparents' time, was huge. So going to the cinema was a completely different experience than what it is now. Tell me, Melanie, what was it like when you were growing up?
Well, it was mainly the drive-in. But also there were so many choices, because of course there was Regal and State and all of those other cinemas that and there were at that time they also had a lot of musicals. It was that era, of musicals, and so it was definitely an occasion. Before my time, though, we have pictures of in Carib, like the lobby, where people went really dressed up. They were dressed up in suits, and the ladies would have gloves on. And
wow,
it was an occasion to go out. And Carib was the first air-conditioned building in the Caribbean.
In the whole Caribbean?
Yep.
I would go just for the AC.
Yes, and people did. It was such a novel thing,
I heard the whole of Caribbean used to be just one big movie theater.
One, yes. When we had
and now you have how many theaters in there?
5. Kalilah, I see you're not been going to the movies.
No, I do. Well, I normally would go to Sovereign, and Sovereign is closed. Cineplex.
Yes. Unfortunately, we had to close because we were seeing single-digit patrons coming, and that couldn't even pay to open the doors. Mm-hmm. And also in Montego Bay, we had that problem. Because once the pandemic hit, Montego Bay, the economy seems to go on the tourist industry.
Right. So if all those people are out of income, nobody has discretionary spending anymore.
Exactly. And so our box office just disappeared.
That's understandable. But what do you think made Palace survive the advent of television back when you said you had so much competition back in the day, you had Regal and these other ones, and those all went out of business. Palace has survived now 100 years. How did you survive when the others didn't?
I guess it was that one of the reasons anyway is that we had secured the distribution end of it, because if you don't have the pictures, that's it. And the companies that we have dealt with many years have found that they can trust us. A lot of the contracts that we have with these companies are on a percentage basis, percentage of the box office. So they send us a film, and every day we need to send them and let them know what our box office take was for their pictures. And so they know what their percentages are going to be. And they come down and audit from time to time. In this industry, there are a lot of rackets that go on. It is one of the famous things about this whole industry. And we have been very careful to go by the rules. Not all of the companies do that. We have, I think it's one and maybe some independents that we have to buy the picture outright. So we pay before. Okay? But I think that has been one of the main reasons that we have been able to survive, that they know us, they trust us, and, they don't have to worry. And if they're not, if they have a concern and they pull their pictures from you, you don't have a business.
Well, I think that resilience alone would encourage me and other investors to say, well, don't count Palace out just yet. Palace has been here for 100 years, and there's something to be said about a company that can be resilient for an entire century, outlasting other forms of competition. But I know it's a very tough period. Have you ever experienced anything even close to this while you've been there, Melanie?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not television, not DVDs, not bootlegging. Nothing has compared with this. This is, there are no words.
So what's your strategy for 2021? Is it just a wait and see and hoping that the movie industry comes back sooner rather than later?
Well, we're trying all sorts of things. Unfortunately, as I said, we don't have much control over the movies, which is the driving force of the whole industry. We keep on getting promises every week when we have this meeting. They tell us, okay, so these pictures are scheduled for release and give us release dates. And then the next week they say, this company, they've moved it. Companies are moving them incrementally, mostly. So if they see that they're having a bad time in the States and figures are up for the COVID infections, then they will move it. Some of them have moved from February to April. Some have moved to June. They haven't moved them totally outside of this year. So it's a prayer and a hope and a wish. And we try things like what we have been doing, because we know money is also a problem because people are out of work and people have taken pay cuts, which is one of the things that we have had to do as well. We have had to rotate staff so that some weeks they might work 3 days and another week they work 2 days or 3 and 3, so that
so at least they can make something and probably find another job on the side in the rest of their time.
Yeah, and we have extended now this to we do at half off on Mondays and Tuesdays usually. We have extended the half off from Monday to Thursday. So hopefully that will help people to be able to say, well, we need a break, we need to go out.
Yeah, right. The movies that are showing now, are they old movies or are they new releases that are just less popular?
Yes, they are all new movies, but they don't have the advertising and the various things that they would do behind it. So that is one of the problems to getting word out there. So the first week, maybe it doesn't do, very much business. The second week, it does a little more. The third, and it's really, I guess, word of mouth that is getting it down there. Oh, this, as they said, this one can watch.
I used to do movie reviews with NNN all the time.
Yeah, yes.
But I'm not there anymore, so.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. And also at the drive-in, we have instituted just this week, and these specials will go on till the end of February. We have instituted $2,000 per car. Okay, social distancing being practiced, of course. So we would say that for a regular vehicle, a standard vehicle, it would be 4 adults or 2 adults and 3 children. And that would be $2,000. And that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So that works out much cheaper than paying for 5 individual tickets.
Exactly, yes. So, we're trying different things, hoping to survive.
Well, how difficult is it to get local movies in the theater? And do they do well when you do air? I know Sprinter was one that was heavily advertised.
Yes. There have been some that have done pretty well. But it has to be of a certain standard because Jamaicans on a whole have become accustomed to Hollywood productions. So the acting and the whole filming of it and everything has to be of a certain standard.
Well, Melanie, I wish you all the best. You and Palace Amusement. I'm going to go check out the drive-in experience and I'll let you know how it was.
Please, yes. And if you have any suggestions, feel free. We'd love to. We're open.
What time are your drive-in movies?
6:30. The box office opens at 6 and it's 6:30.
So it's on the one showing?
Yes. Well, that too, because of the curfew, we are unable to have 2 shows. It would take them over and we have to allow time for
people to go
home and also staff, so yeah.
All right. Well, once again, all the best. And I hope the movie industry comes back soon because I really want to go back to the movies. I miss it.
You can't imagine. You just can't imagine what it's like. So hopefully, and keep in touch. Let me know. I'm interested to know your feedback.
All right, good.
Up next, we've got your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agent. Insurance made easy.
Time now for your market recap, brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. The Jamaica Stock Exchange declined last week, with the combined index losing almost 1%. 104 stocks traded across both the main and the junior markets of the JSE for the week ending Friday, January 22, 2021. 49 advanced, 47 declined, and 8 stayed the same. Nearly 97 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling nearly $376 million. Wigton Wind Farm ordinary shares traded the most, taking up 19% of market volume. The stock remained unchanged to open the week at 74 cents. Tropical Battery Company traded the second most, with people buying and selling 9 million shares in the company. The stock lost 7 cents to close last week at $1.07. And the Trans-Jamaican Highway was also among the most traded, taking up nearly 10% of market volume. The stock gained 5 cents to open the week at $1.35. Now let's see who else had the biggest gains. Lumber Depot shares rose nearly 32% last week. The stock starts this week at $1.96. Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica gained 22% to close last week at $1.64. And KLE Group shares gained nearly 21%, its stock ending the week at $1.40. On the losing side now, Dolphin Cove fell nearly 24% to close last week at $6.80. Mayberry Jamaican equities fell nearly 19% to end last week at $6.26 a share. And rounding off our major decliners, Epley 8.25% fell 14% down to $6. Market recap was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Ideal Portfolio Services. Welcome back to Taking Stock. I've got a team of analysts to examine the week in business. I'm joined by Wealth Advisor at Ideal Portfolio Services, Dwayne Taylor, and Research and Strategy Analyst at Sagicor Investments, Jody-Ann Harris.
Hi, Dwayne. Hi, Jody-Ann. Wow, you look lovely, Jody.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Kalilah.
Hi, Dwayne.
Come on, Dwayne, you drop off, man. You need to step it up like Jody. She has the glamour lighting. She has the makeup done. She came ready.
Yeah, my next episode.
Let's get this money right, Jody. So we have a few things to talk about this week, both locally and abroad. Dwayne, you've been eyeing Netflix results. So in the previous segment, we were speaking with Palace Amusement, and we're discussing, among other things, how Netflix has been so dominant. A lot of movies are coming straight to Netflix now. What are Netflix's results showing?
Right. So Netflix actually started the year off well with some excellent results. I think it's important to preface it, though, because the previous year, 2020, wasn't as hot as persons anticipated for Netflix. They really started off with a bang in quarter one, where they actually added about 28 million new subscribers. But into quarter two and quarter three, it took a very sharp decline. I think roughly about 2 and 3 million respectively in both quarters. So going into the new year, there was a lot of speculation about how they would perform, and they delivered. They actually saw an increase in subscriptions, roughly about 8.5 new subscribers to the platform, which is definitely positive for them in a space where there's so many competitors. You have Hulu, you have Disney Plus, just to name a few. Granted, they do have their advantage in the international market because of the access that they avail to users, but at the same time, their competitors do have content that persons are gravitating towards and want access to. On another note, what Netflix also added is that they're moving away from the model of aggressively bringing in new clients and actually looking to depend on their free cash flow. So essentially what they're doing, they want to take care of all their bills, all their expenses, and whatever is left back, they can look towards, building a model that's more focused on profitability rather than new acquisitions of clients. So that was definitely something positive that came out of this earnings seasons for Netflix, and we're very optimistic. And we saw it reflect in the stock price. I think they actually went up by about 17% this week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I know they fell down a bit, but it's definitely looking very positive for them and our outlook for it. We want to see what they will deliver and if they will actually make that transition to focusing on their profitability.
Yeah, so on that note about the focus on the profitability, with a lot of these movies coming direct to Netflix, it means that they have to pay for the movie though. So how have they done in terms of revenue generation and profitability?
Right. So on a year-over-year basis, their revenue actually grew by roughly 24%. I need to check back on that, but it definitely grew year over year. So despite them having to pay for content, Netflix has also been an advocate for creating their own content as well. So they've had some blockbuster hits, so to speak, on the platform that have generated a lot of traffic for them. I think the most recent one, I think the ladies are going crazy over it. Jody, tell me if you know it. There's a new one on Netflix.
Bridgerton?
Yes, Bridgerton.
Yes, it's really good. It's actually produced by Shonda Rhimes. So
Right.
which didn't go straight to TV as most of her shows go. It went to Netflix.
Exactly. So when you look at content like that and the fact that it's exclusive to Netflix, they are making a statement in the market, and content like that warrants why they're bringing in the money that they have brought in. So definitely positive for them. And as I said, we're looking to see what the future has for them as a transition.
So Netflix for ideal portfolio is a buy?
Absolutely. It's always been there. But now more than ever, we're looking to see what it can do for our clients. So yes, definitely a solid stuff.
So Jodianne, let's look at some news on the local front, some news on the economy. The unemployment numbers came out. Unemployment rate is up from about 7% to about 10% now. And the biggest joblessness that we see, the biggest declines in employment are arts and entertainment. Any surprises there in the numbers?
No, not really. I think probably if you want a little bit of good news is that relative to the July quarter, it is unemployment is down. So I think we peaked at 12.6 in July 2020, and so we're down 10.7. Still not at the levels we were when we, started to get adjusted to single-digit unemployment levels. So, I mean, relative to last year, we're higher, but we're down relative to the previous quarter, which indicates that things are probably getting a little bit better. But the arts and entertainment is an industry that has been heavily hit because they are very much dependent on crowds and people coming together. And with the restrictions of, crowd and limits on how many persons can gather, it's really affected that sector. And if we also want to think of tourism, which is captured in two industries, which would be the accommodation, hotels and restaurant side, as well as when it is that your tourists would come, they would have to, participate in attractions. It should be the other services, which also get some amount of hits. I think when they lump that big group with arts, entertainment, and other services, it reflects some of the tourism activities that we normally see in terms of persons frolicking and, visiting attractions. So it's not really a surprise that they are the big ones.
And once again, we'd see, Palace Amusement falling into the same category. Mm-hmm. So we see, the impact on them. So Dwayne, any surprises or anything stood out to you about the recent unemployment numbers? And notice recreation, restaurants also hits another. I think those are obvious sectors. Anything for you, Dwayne?
I don't know if you remember last year when PIOJ actually came out and said that we saw, I think, an 18% increase or decrease, was it? Trying to recall. The economy contracted pretty much by 18%, sorry. And that for me was a telltale sign that things would look a bit, the horizon would look a bit misty or a bit difficult to see because of that contraction. And as such, we're starting to see the ripple effect of the economy feeling the brunt of the COVID virus. And yes, restaurants, definitely. The fact is, if there are less jobs to go around, If unemployment is at an all-time high, less jobs to go around, that means there's less money in circulation by the populace. As such, transactions are going to be less. Persons are going to be unable to go out and buy food as they would want. They'd have to be a bit more smart and cost effective as well. They have to look for options that make sense and would allow them to preserve their money. So this really is no surprise to myself. I know to Jody as well, based off of what she shared. What we really have to do is just look to see how we can become a bit more resilient. I remember the last episode we spoke about the manufacturing industry and how they've been resilient through the midst of COVID. It's the same way we have to look for mechanisms to try and become COVID proof, so to speak, to kind of protect our money and be able to, I guess, build back the economy. So, yeah.
I really just glanced at the numbers myself, but I'd have to take a deeper dive into them to see if there are any sectors where there are actually increases in employment. So if the job losses in these sectors.
Construction may have had some, probably not as bad as the others.
Because there may have been some people who lost their job in arts and entertainment. I'm sure many of them have been finding other things to do. So there may have been gains in other sectors.
Right.
You'd have to look more deeply into the numbers to see. Overall, though, there was a loss. So some of those job losses may have been permanent, or at least permanent for the period that we're looking at.
Right.
But on the positive side, though, Jody-Ann, business and consumer confidence is up for the first time since COVID, the first time in 4 quarters. What does that tell you?
I think people went into COVID and, you kind of had an idea what would be coming. And so you got really nervous about it. And, having gone through the first 2 quarters of COVID and looking into December, you realize that it wasn't as bad probably as you had expected. Initially, if you had asked persons in April, would there still be Christmas? You'd be like, no, Christmas not keep. But when you got to December and, you saw people still doing things, you still saw a little entertainment going on in terms of families and homes. Persons still were making preparations for Christmas. So I think things for persons came out a little bit better than they expected. And you see that reflected in the numbers. So when you compare, particularly if you look at the economy itself, when you compare year on year, so if you look at 2020 versus 2019, it was down. But when you look at the quarter-on-quarter movement, so if you look at the end of September relative to the end of June, you saw that was actually an improvement. So it's really that, the consumer confidence is looking at what I experienced in the first 2 quarters or what I experienced last quarter versus what I expect for this quarter. And that's, in the easing and the reopening of tourism, you really started to see a little bit of buzz and you saw energy in places that you really didn't think there would be. So it's really a reflection of the easing and things just being a little bit better than we thought it would be at this point.
Dwayne, how much do you think the news of the vaccine has contributed to that confidence?
Significantly, maybe not for individuals because, persons are wary of what may happen with taking the vaccine, but definitely for businesses. They understand that with that in place, the economy will gradually open up. Tourists for a country like us that's dependent on tourism, we anticipate with the vaccine being employed, we'll start to see, more frequent flyers, persons coming into the country a lot more to, stimulate the economy. So I'm not surprised by the boost in confidence. What we have to do as a country is just respond to same. So, whereas, persons are a bit skeptical about Jamaica, we have to ensure that we're abiding by COVID protocols to make persons coming into the country, because we're so heavily dependent on tourism, better for them, essentially. We need to make our surroundings better. We need to abide by those protocols. So yes, I'm optimistic about, this report. But at the same time, I think Jamaica needs to respond to it and ensure that, things are in place to protect the people and pretty much promote this growth. Yeah.
If I could add, one of the things that the survey showed was that persons' prospects for the current job prospects, so looking at it currently, that was still low. However, when they think, future prospects, they had a greater optimism. So I think people are buying into the vaccine coming. There's going to be recovery that will be associated with that. So even though we still perceive things to be not great right now, and so we're not having strong prospects now, when we look in the future, we kind of have a little bit more optimism and a little bit more looking forward to greater things to come, and that sort of recovery that will come with the vaccine, as Dwayne mentioned.
All right. Thanks, guys. Always appreciate your input.
All right, pleasure.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Ideal Portfolio Services. That's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share with a friend. Also subscribe to our newsletter, KalilahReynolds.com, and turn on those post notifications so that you can be the first to see all of my other features. We want to help people learn more about money so we can all get this money together. This week on Money Mondays JA, we're talking about the JSE's new private market. And on Money Moves JA, Jamaica Customs is back with more info on duty-free incentives specifically for manufacturers. You can save up to 150% on your taxes. What? Well, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Kalilah Ray, and follow at Taking Stock JA on Instagram. If you want to connect with the analysts this week, check the description box below for their contact information. Also visit our website at KalilahReynolds.com for financial information you can use however you like it. Watch, listen, or read. Now tell a friend about Taking Stock. Investing is the new sexy, darling. So let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalilah Reynolds. Stay safe.
Let's get this money.